Together we rise, no room for fear. In this Super League, we unite as one. With laughs and debates, the love never done.
All right, welcome back to the Two Yorkshire Saint podcast, powered by Acorn Joinery Leeds. Special guest again this week. We're joined by Wakefield Trinity Centre. How are we doing, mate? Cam Scott.
I'm all good, gents. How are we?
First and foremost, Cam, thanks for giving us your time, mate. We know, as you said off air, you've been a busy man today, so we do really appreciate that. Before we get too much into your career so far, mate, I know you're 26 years of age, I believe, so you've still got plenty of seasons under your belt to come. We'll just have a quick touch on the weekend result, mate. We'll get the bad bit out of the way first. Obviously, it's not the result you and the Trinity boys wanted. What was your sort of thoughts on that, mate? And was anything you could put your finger on, you know, why you was beat in the end?
I think for us, mate, we were just that poor and that far off our own standards that, you know, we never really deserved to win the game. Looking back at some of our stats from the game, we're way off the standards we've set over last year and over pre-season and the targets we want for the season going forward. And some of those stats, you'd be lucky to win a game in any division, never mind obviously Super League. You can't be having weeks off like that, otherwise they do catch up with you. So it was a pretty harsh lesson in the first round, but it was in the first round, which in the grand scheme of things is where you want these things to happen. You know, teams are still getting to know each other and you're still figuring out obviously the new ruck rules and how it's going to be refed and things like that. But like I say, even with the stats and the poor performance, you know, we still nearly nicked it in the end. And you know that if we're that far off and we can still nearly nick a result, then you know when we're at 100% or higher gears and we're actually on where we want to be, then you know it proves that we're going to be a challenge again. So you know, as much as it was disappointing, it's a good time to get it all out the way and have a good week and just crack on. You know, we've still got 26 rounds to go, so you know, get that one out of the way first and just move on, really.
That's it. It's week one, so you're going to be an increased self still, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%. Like even with it being week one, you know, you don't want to turn out a performance like that, especially we had a lot of build up towards our performance and based on last year. And I know last year didn't do anything for you, but it gave us a lot of confidence and give the club and give the fans some confidence. And we kind of let everyone down on the big stage in round one. So, you know, it's been massive for us within the group this week to just put that behind us and repay what the club and what the fans have put into us over the off season and over last year especially. So, you know, like I say, it's take the lessons and learn from what we did wrong, which to be honest there were plenty of, but you know, there's plenty to go at again over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, without getting yourself into any bother, mate, we know what type of coach Powley is. Was he taking the paint off the wall at the end of the game, mate? What's he sort of say to you in a roundabout way as a collective?
Like you say, you can probably guess. You know, he's a passionate bloke. We've got very passionate coaching staff that know, you know, what our standards are. And I think when you go away from that, I think it's when you know what you've got and you don't perform to that standard that's even more disappointing. You know, if you play well and you hit everything that you set out to hit and you lose, then you know you can give credit to the opposition. And don't get me wrong, to lose we're very good, but we were so far off. And when you're basically your own undoing the majority of the time, I think that's what frustrates coaches and yourself as players, is that you know you can be so much better, and we were just way off. So like I said, when you don't hit your standards and there were too many people not hitting the standards, then you know that's the big issue where it comes from. So I'm sure you can imagine how it was, really.
Yeah, a few swear words I can imagine.
All four of us fell short this weekend, so we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We are.
That's it, mate. So no, we like I say, mate, we appreciate that honesty from you. Just taking it right back to the start of your career, mate. Your amateur game and growing up as a kid. I believe you're a Bradford lad, mate. Is that right?
Yeah, so I still live there now. Moved to Hull for a little bit of my time when I was there, but Bradford lad, played all my amateur in Bradford. Obviously started the scholarship at Bradford. and that's pretty much where I'm living now as well. So yeah.
Always your sort of amateur teams in Bradford, mate.
So I played at Queensbury and I played at Wyke LFC. I spent majority of my time at Wyke. I did think 3 or 4 years up at Queensbury, but like I say, majority of my time was spent at Wyke.
Quite interesting that because it's quite varied when you speak to people. You know, some people only play for one amateur club through the age groups, don't they? And others sort of flitter about a little bit. So you're saying you had a couple of amateur teams, mate, and obviously that found you into the professional game in the end.
Yeah, 100%. I always played the year above. So when I first went to Wyke, it's where my dad played. He played there for 20, 30 plus years. And then he took me down, and there wasn't a team my age group, but I kind of wanted to get started, so I just played the year up, and I played the year up till I was about, I'd probably say 14. So again, when I went over to Queensbury, I was playing the year up then as well. Again, no team my age, so I stayed all that time playing a year up, and then eventually a team came through at Wyke at my own age. So I just dropped back down probably when I was 13, 14, and having that experience of playing a year up for so long served me really well. To be fair, when I got back to my own age, and that's kind of where the pathway into turning pro started.
Yeah, that's it, I mean. So when you was running around as a little nipper, mate, was there anybody sort of you looked up to at the time? Was there anybody on the telly where you thought, I want to be like him? We had Connor win on last week, and he said likes of Billy Slater, etc. Was there anybody in? I take it you played in the backs most of your career from amateurs to now.
Yeah, so I played a lot of. I played when I was younger. I swapped between fullback and half. So for me, I really liked how Darren Lockyer used to play, and Billy Slater again, depending on whether I was playing half or fullback. They were my kind of idols growing up, and I just thought the way Billy Slater played the game as a fullback was pretty ridiculous. Like, he was one of the toughest you could come across. A really good defensive fullback as well, and then obviously played in that trio for Australia, where you had Thurston, Cooper Cronk, and himself, and then obviously Darren Lockyer a bit earlier on. So I just remember one of my first memories of being at a Four Nations final at Ellen Road, and that trio absolutely ripped England apart. And then you throw Cam Smith in there at 9, and that was kind of where I pulled all my inspiration from playing in a spine at.
Yeah, it's not a bad setup, mate, in terms of their team when in that time, was it?
No, and they were all in the prime as well. And when I was that age, you're probably talking a good 10, 12 years ago now. They were the best spine in the world for some time, really. So that's, like I say, that's where I drew any inspiration from.
Yeah, I think there's pretty much most guys your age and even my era there was sort of always the go-to, legends that we looked up to, wasn't they? So that's no surprise in what you're saying there. In 2018, mate, you made your debut for Hull FC against my beloved Robins. What do you remember about that game, mate? That season, I know you played 23 matches of that particular game, mate. What was your sort of memories, and is anything that sticks?
Yeah, absolutely shitting myself. I'll be honest. Because I remember I was kind of in and around the first team at this point. Well, I was full time anyway, but I was kind of in and around, like swapping in the team. And the week before we played Featherstone in the cup, and that was where his team just got absolutely decimated. I think we ended up with 2 red cards, an ACL, and like a syndesmosis injury. And I suddenly went from like being in the squad to Radders coming up to me the Monday after the game and being like, "You're going to be playing this week," and I was like. You know what Radders were like. I want most people know it was like. I genuinely thought it were like geeing me up a bit, and I was like, "Nah, sure, there's no way. We've not lost that many players." And then we got out onto the field, and I was like, "No, we're actually on bare bones here." And then obviously for that to be my debut at Magic Weekend as well, probably the second biggest stage outside of a grand final or a Challenge Cup final.
Oh yeah.
I was like, as much as I'd been dreaming for that moment, when it came round, I was like, yeah, this is serious now, and pretty nervous. And then getting into the game, I remember, obviously it being my first game, I remember absolutely blowing, like I was absolutely dying. And I was thinking, oh, I've not looked at the clock yet. And I remember looking up and I thought, there's got to be a good half an hour gone here. We can't be far off half time. And I looked up and we played 7 minutes. And I was
Oh,
like,
no.
I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get through the rest of this game. But obviously all that nervous energy was just built up inside me, and I'd gone out onto the field and were just running around like a madman trying to get an early involvement. So I was into the game, and I just remember thinking, yeah, I was like, surely I've not got another 33 minutes till half time. But yeah, it was a pretty whirlwind week. It came around really quick. And like you say, I think I played 7-8 games the rest of that year, against some really quality sides, and obviously that's where everything started.
Yeah, it's all them little stories, sort of the best insights for me. What I was going to say about Radders, you say Radders, you had a load of injuries and all that, mate, but I'm pretty sure, knowing what we know about Radders, he saw something in you to justify his selection. So I think you're being a little bit modest on yourself there, if I'm honest.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, I must have seen something. I think by that point I'd done. So I signed at Hull the start of 2017. So I'd had that full year. I was playing academy and reserves. I'd caught the tiny bit at back end of pre-season that year, like not much. But then obviously 2018 was my full year. I had a full pre-season. Was in full time. I played all the friendlies. A few of the lads went on loan as well. Went to Doncaster. And I got asked to stay because I think it was a year we were probably a bit skinny in the outside backs. But yeah, like I say, obviously I'd done enough over that pre-season to put myself in the shop window and get ready to play, and eventually my opportunity came, and that was that really.
Yeah, well, what I've seen, you took it by both hands, mate. Even when you played Rovers, like I said, we've interviewed a few people since our podcast has been going, mate, and they've all sort of talked about intensity through the levels. So, you said there you thought you'd been playing 20 odd minutes and you'd only played 7 minutes. Obviously, the intensity must be massive going from reserve rugby and academy rugby to first grade, mate. Would you back what everybody says in terms of that is the case?
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. You kind of go from being a big fish in a little pond in academy and reserves. That's kind of your level when you're coming through as a youngster. You're like, this is where you kind of stand out. And you think reserves is pretty quick anyway, but you're playing against people your own age. So obviously I was 18, I was playing against like-minded 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and then all of a sudden you go to make your Super League debut and you've gone from playing to 18, 20-year-olds to like 26 peak up to 30-year-olds, and with that comes you're playing against men. Everyone's bigger, everyone's faster, everyone's stronger. And you kind of start at the bottom of the ladder again then. And obviously with that comes the speed of the game. So you've got people who are bigger, faster, stronger, and you're playing at a faster tempo as well. Like I said, you playing academy and reserves only gets you so far, but once you start playing against, primed Super League athletes week in, week out, and against blokes, that's when you really find out what you're made of.
Yeah, big men. It's a big step up, mate, isn't it? That's for
Yeah,
sure.
100%.
Most of your, well, I won't say most of your career because I'm talking like you're sort of back end of your career, but you're not, mate. As we said earlier, you're only 26, so you've still got plenty of years to go. I mean, got 38 games for FC between 2018 and 24. Obviously, you've played 21 games plus for Trinity. The rest of those sort of loans in between that period, mate. We've got you some 6 games on loan at Doncaster, 2 games on loan at Dewsbury Rams, 3 games again at Doncaster, and 7 games at York City Knights at the time, and also four for Lee Centurions. How did the league sort of move come around? Because it's not Yorkshire sort of thing, is it? How did that go?
Yeah, so I'd gone on loan to York at the middle of 2019, and I'd had a really good year there. I think, like you said, I played 7 games. I think I scored something like 6 tries, and that's when York were their first year in the championship, and we finished 3rd. And we played Toronto away, and I got a pretty serious shoulder injury. I ended up having a full reconstruction at 19 in my left shoulder. So I'd been there and I'd had a good year, and Lee were, spending that time in the championship, and they kind of had a look around at who was available. I just signed a new deal at Hull, and Hull were, saying long-term plan is you come in at the centres. We just need you to go play again, really. So I was like, yeah, no worries, that's fine. And the original plan was that I was gonna go back to York and do a year at York. I'd had James Ford, who was the York coach at the time. He was the England 18s coach. So I've got a really good relationship with him, and that's probably why I went to York in 2019 in the first place. So the plan was to go back there, and then basically Lee came in and said they were keen on getting me, and they offered to cover my full wage pretty much. And Hull were like, we see Lee as probably performing a bit better than York this season, and they said it'll be good for your development. So basically that was just kind of all agreed, and they were like, we see this move being better for you, and longer term. So that's kind of how the Lee one came about. They came in looking for me, and we're ready to pay the price really, and that just all went hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, the loan moves, mate. Are they good experiences, sort of off the field as well as on the field? Because obviously you're going out your comfort zone a little bit, aren't you, to these places, not knowing certain players and coaches, and even just the travelling aspect of it all, mate.
Yeah, 100%. I'd encourage anyone who's young to get on loan as soon as possible. Like I said, you're in your comfort zone in academy and reserves. You're within a club system, and the club system that you're at, so it kind of looks after you a little bit. Once you go on loan, you're not out for yourself, but you need to get out of it what you need to get out of it whilst being in another system. And I think when I went to Dewsbury and Doncaster, obviously Doncaster were coached by Richard Horn, who was obviously still are, and he was the assistant coach at Hull at the time. So again, that was kind of a bit more system based. They kind of played the same system, and we always went on dual reg with a couple of us from Hull, so you weren't completely out of your comfort zone. But I remember going to Dewsbury and being obviously going into a part-time environment, and I'd kind of been shielded by the full-time environment at Hull. And I remember going to Dewsbury and seeing lads literally rock up in the work gear, run into the gym, do the gym session, get out on the field, and then go straight home pretty much and get ready to go to work the day after. And that in itself opens your eyes at how good you do have it at full time, and it kind of gives you a bit more of a sympathy and an empathy towards people playing the part-time game as to what they go through, exactly what we go through, but then get up and go to work, through the week, or ready for a Monday after playing on a Sunday. But again, playing in a different system, get used to different players and different teams, and it just gives you a better experience overall of playing rugby really. And like I said before, you go from playing academy reserves to playing with men, and I think, like I said, that's where you really find out what you're made of, and whether you're going to cut it at the top level. So those stepping stones are going on loans and playing with different clubs and coaches and staff and systems. I think it gives you an understanding of what suits you as a player in what systems, and kind of what coaches are looking for. It kind of takes you out of the protection and the eyesight of your full-time environment. So I think it's massively beneficial.
Let's jump in for one quick, Carl.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So from what I've looked into, you joined Wakefield halfway through 2024 when you were still in the Championship. When you got promoted, you got the usual, they've smashed the Championship, but, can they do it in Super League? And to exceed expectations and get into the playoffs, how did that feel as a playing group?
Yeah, it was massive. You've probably seen it this year where all the promoted clubs, nobody's giving them a chance, and we tend to do that as a sport. You're like, oh, whoever comes up, that's it, right? I'm off straight away. And we were quite confident as a playing group. Obviously, I went in 2024, and the talk was kind of a year ahead. Call that confidence, or however you want to nail it. But the group at the time were confident that they were going to win that Championship grand final, and the staff were confident that we were going to attack Super League, and we were ready to go come 2024. All the outside noise had written us off. There were loads of players that hadn't played Super League, and a lot of people at the media tended to think, are they cut out for this level? And we got written off straight from round one. And then we turned Leeds over, and everyone were like, "Oh, it's just a fluke." It's kind of just round one excitement, and they won't be able to keep it up. But we were quietly confident all the way through the year that we could be in and around the six, and it showed us league table position all the way through the year that we were in and around the six. And then obviously when it got down to crunch time, we turned up some big results that finally got us in there. So we always had that quiet, confident ability that we could make it, and there were a lot of people that backed against us, and you know that kind of puts us in a different position this year because we stood up and were accounted for, and you know, like I say, we were pretty ready for it regardless of what anybody else said.
I mean, these two had a little grim and said, I predict York to get into the playoffs based on what Wakefield did last season. So you never know, do you?
No, that's it, mate. You don't.
Hey,
Now,
I
I've got a
told you
question.
before we came on air, we aren't talking about York this week.
Yes,
I've
we
got a
are.
Told you not to
Oh,
mention
yes, we are.
that. Go on, Jordan. What are you going to say, mate?
Cam, we just wanted to ask, mate. We had Ben Crooks on last year, wasn't it? Beginning like December time.
Yeah, before Christmas,
and
yeah.
Before Christmas, yeah. And we were trying to ask him this question and kind of the worry of being a player. Like, is this the same with you? Where like, I know it's a bit different circumstances with like your age when you started coming through, but you know when like you wanting to be Super League level and then you go out on loan and you know you're in Championship, etc. Is it a worry where you know you want to be in Super League and it's that worry of what you know scared about being forgotten sort of thing and you wanting to get back to Super League, that's where you want to play, that's the top level. Is that as a player, is that like a worry for you?
I wouldn't say it's a worry. Obviously at 18, I went and asked for a loan to the Championship because I kind of wanted to go and experience that division, and you know that in itself gives you a bit of an eyesight of where you're gonna be in your career. I just think it's part of the process. I don't really think you worry about it. You more than embrace it, because if you look at anybody who's at the top level now, they've all played those lower leagues more or less. It's very rare now you see someone that's come through a system, makes the debut, and then doesn't go out on loan, or makes the debut and then manages to stay within the team all the way around. I think there's probably a few exceptions in the league, but you know, even the likes of Jez Litton. Obviously, I played with Jez at Hull. You know, he spent time on loan at Doncaster, playing dual edge. I think he almost did a full season there. Even when he went to KR, was on the fringes. You know, and now he's arguably the best nine in the comp, and certainly one of England's best hookers. I just think it's part of the process. It's not, excuse me, it's not about being forgotten about. It's about, you know, understanding that's the process and the natural progression. Of course, obviously, your end goal is always to get back to Super League, but I think you've got to cross a few bridges before you finally get to the point where you realise, you know, that you're ready. And I think, like I said, playing those leagues is part of it.
So you'd rather go and get the minutes in your legs than rot on the bench, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100%. Like I said earlier, reserves and academy can only take you so far. It's very rare you see someone come out of academy and reserves and go straight into the first team and stay there. You know, there's even the difference between reserves and playing Championship level now is quite the difference. But yeah, playing time's the most important thing in development, and you can stay within that full-time environment and not go out on loan if you think you're going to be forgotten about. But really, you're probably only hindering yourself. So like I said earlier, I'd recommend loans to absolutely anybody if that's what they were thinking about.
No, it's good insight that, mate. To be honest, not a lot of
Yeah,
people
so,
say that probably.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, it is tough because you know you sign that full-time deal or the deal with the Super League club, and then you know you're looking, you're like, do I want to go play Championship? Like, am I going to get forgotten about? Especially when it's a year loan, and I think that's why the full-time clubs have a big impact with, you know, obviously allowing you to play with your championship club and then being able to train as well as a full time. I think if you get the balance of that right, you don't miss out on the things that are going on at your club, you know, where you're seeing long term, but then you also get the benefit of going out and playing week in, week out as well.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You was a professional rugby league player, Cameron. Tell me if I'm wrong. Are you a diabetes man? I've seen
I am,
some
mate. Yeah,
on your
type 1.
social media recently. I didn't know myself up to about a month or so ago until I started doing a bit of research and whatnot on you. Just give us an insight briefly onto does that change your routine, or does it how was the sort of physical and mental aspect with that? You know, as a rugby league professional player.
Yeah, it's a it's a tough journey, mate. It's a tough journey, but as much as it's tough, I think it's probably benefited me. I've got to keep an eye on myself a little bit more than probably some people need to around diet, and especially when it comes to game day. Game day is massive of keeping control of what I need to keep control of, but it gives me a focus all the way through the day of it's just a kind of a mindset and a discipline for me now. If I look after that, that kind of controls my day. And that's the first thing when I wake up every day, ready for game day, especially that's the first thing I need to sort out. And that mindset, routine and discipline kind of sets me up for the day and sets me up for training and sets me up for games. Don't get me wrong, it takes a lot of control and there's ups and downs to it, but for me, it helps in the profession that I'm in, because I have to keep control of the condition, and if I keep control of it, it benefits me, it benefits my performance, and that goes hand in hand. I'm doing it for my job, but I'm not just doing it for rugby. I'm doing it, which goes hand in hand with my health. So having the job I do, I suppose I'm pretty lucky in the sense that they go hand in hand, and as one works, the other tends to work on the back of it. So it's I suppose that's quite relaxing thing about it, really.
Yeah, I bet it certainly keeps you on your toes, mate. And like you say, it's a positive thing, really, because it's just it's part of your life. It's part of your routine. It's the first thing you sort of get right every day, like you've just said. So, credit to you for that, mate.
Yeah, full credit, mate, full credit.
Moving on quickly, we've got some social media questions. The first one is from Phil Crabtree. He asks, "What are your aims and goals this season, personally and collectively as a team?"
Well, tough one. We've actually set a goal sheet out. I'm probably going to give a boring answer to this. Actually, my personal goals, I kind of want to keep in house. They're more for me rather than anything
There's
else.
me thinking we're going to get an exclusive then, Cam.
No. I'll tell you at the end of the season if I get them or not. As a collective, I think we're really targeting that top four. I think we went to Lee away last year in the playoffs, and that was probably a step too far. We'd come up against a playoff ready team, a team that had played in the playoffs before, and we were just like, if we can get a home draw in the playoffs, it's massive. The way we turned Bellevue last year, at a lot of times it was a tough place to be. So we're definitely targeting that top four. The six is now a minimum, really, after doing it last year.
Yeah.
The top four and the home playoff is massive, and we've targeted looking to have a real good go at the Challenge Cup. We lost out narrowly again to Lee, who turned out to be a bit of a thorn for us last year at home. So we're looking to one up that as well. So we have as a widespread goal, we're looking to try and get a home playoff in the playoffs, and then have a real good crack at the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, so that was you collectively. And you personally, mate, is it Cam Scott for England? Is that what you're saying without telling us?
Do you know what, mate? I think I've probably missed the goal in England, to be honest.
It's probably injury free, in it, mate. I'd probably say.
Yeah, injury free. Obviously, I had a good year
Yeah.
last year once I got over my early hamstring injury. I put 24 games back to back last year. I've started pretty well this year as well. So, I kind of think the injury stuff's behind me. I do a lot of work away from training to make sure that I'm ready to go, and that's kind of something that I've found out as I've got older, is that you can't rely on being young anymore and getting through it. There's bits you've got to do on the side. But yeah, like with the England thing, I'd love to play for England. It's a massive honour playing for your country. I came through with loads of potential, and due to probably injuries and a couple of environment things at different clubs, that's kind of where I hit a bit of a stunt in that aspect. So I'm probably a bit far behind on where I expected to be in my career. But I feel like I'm slowly clawing that back. So that is kind of sat at the back of my mind. But doing the job for Wakefield, it'll take care of the rest of that when it comes to it.
Yeah, I think most sports athletes say the word consistency, don't they? Whether it's football, rugby, or whatever it may be, consistent performances comes to mind.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And I debuted 2018, played a couple of games that year. 2019, we had a pretty healthy squad. I then go on loan and have a big injury to my shoulder, which resets me. Then go on loan to Lee in 2020. COVID hits, so I play 4 games in the Championship and 5 at Super League in a pretty mad year. 2021 was probably my first year where I string loads of games together, and again, being young, I was having appearances off the bench. I'd start a couple, and that was the experience I needed. And then that's 2022. I end up with a syndesmosis injury in my ankle, missed 3 months, come back, play 2 games, tear both my adductors, miss another 12 weeks. And then it just started rolling again. 2023, come in back to back, 20 odd games. And then end of that season, I end up tear my hamstring again in 2024's pre-season, get into the middle of 2024 season, grade 3 hamstring tear. And before you know it, 2024 has disappeared. I think I played 11 games that year. New environment, start again, have a full pre-season, play all the friendlies. A week from the Challenge Cup game against Gould, grade 2 hamstring tear, miss another 6 to 8 weeks with that. But then I go on to put 24 games back to back. So, if I can get over those bits, which I kind of have done now over the last 18 months, touch wood, I've had no issues since. And like I say, I do a lot more away from training, away from rugby, just to make sure that they're all in good nick. And I'm, like I say, 24 games back to back. I'm doing a pretty good job so far, and the start of this year has been a pretty good start for me personally. So the consistency, like I say, everything else will take care of the rest if I can deal with that.
Just wanted to ask,
will, mate.
Cam. Obviously, you've just mentioned your injuries. Like, what's obviously your time periods for your injuries. Your 12 weeks, etc. They've kind of got to be, they're there for recovery. But what's like your mindset there during these times? When, not like when I was saying about you wanting to, going on loan and stuff and being forgotten. So is that the same thing with injuries where people's obviously got to fill in for your position, etc. And you're having that pause button, and then you just try and start again, and then you're injured again. Is that a worry as well? Like, what's the mindset going on? How do you kind of get yourself back into it all?
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. As obviously being injured, it tends to be when you take somebody else's position. So obviously for 2022, I'd started the season, and we played Salford at home, and I scored 2 tries, and I ended up getting try of the month and second for try of the season in that game. And I was absolutely flying, and then just an innocuous tackle, someone's fallen on my ankle, and my ligament just popped. So I've gone from being in the squad and earning my place in the team to then being sat on the sideline. And in all honesty, I had some confidence in it because I'd been playing well, and I was like, all right, I can attack this rehab now, because once I get back, I can just pick up where I left off. And that was kind of the incentive for that. Was I'd come off the back of a pretty good period. But again, 12-week injuries, you're watching other players playing your position, and if you've replaced somebody in the team because they've been injured, then somebody kind of under you in the pecking order, if you want to say that, they jump in and replace you, and they can get a good run of games, and then, like you say, it can feel like you're going to be forgotten about. But I think it's that rehab process is you've just got to do everything you can do to make sure that when you're back, you don't miss a trick. And that's the important part. If you kind of mess about with your rehab or don't take it seriously because you think, oh, I've got 3 months, 12 weeks, whatever, before I'm back. I just think once you get straight back into rehab, it's got to be head down, and you do what you need to do to get back, because obviously you get given a time scale, but if you can take some time off that time scale and still be in a good spot, you get your position back quicker, you get your confidence back quicker, you get into full-time training quicker, and then that's where you really pick up. But obviously being forgotten about is massive because you're not on the field, and when you're not on the field, you're not ingrained in things, and when you're not ingrained in things, that feels like you kind of are on the side, or you sat in preview meetings watching teams that you're not going to be playing against, and it's hard to stay around it. And people say, oh, stay around it, don't get lost. But as a human being, when you feel like you're kind of being replaced, and you've got something that you can't contribute, you just naturally feel that it's a bit of a nightmare, really, and that your world's imploding. But it's just one of those things. It's part of the game, and you can't let it consume you. There's players in the game that have had some really massive injuries at young ages, and even in the primes, and they've come back the same player, if not better. It gives you a focus to focus on something else whilst you're injured. When it takes you away from your injury, and you can develop in different ways. So they always say, the comeback's always bigger than the setback, and I do massively believe in that. And over my career, I've had a fair few setbacks, and in some of them managed to come back better for the experience.
You'll understand that there's a bit of a fight coming back from injury because every player gets their chance, mainly through an injury or suspension, or
What's that? Sorry, say again, mate.
I'm saying you understand the situation where you're having to fight back for your place because that's how you got your start as well, through an injury.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. It's just part of the game. You're going to get injuries, and people are going to get opportunities. And once you've got your spot, it's about keeping hold of it. And albeit you can't prevent every injury, but they are going to happen. And like I say, it's how you react to that injury or to that suspension is, what you're going to do off the back of it. I guarantee if you're a player that sits and feel sorry for yourself over the course of your injury, it's going to bite you in the ass when you finally get your opportunities again. Don't get me wrong, people have big injuries, and sometimes you have more time than others, and you are right to feel sorry for yourself because some of those injuries can be career defining. But I think once you get over that initial period, you're like, right, I've stopped feeling sorry for myself now. It's time I just get head on with it, and you come back and everything changes off the back of that. So it's one of those things. You've just got to understand that it happens, and you can't be one of those that sits there for too long thinking and feeling sorry for yourself, really.
Yeah,
No,
I
no.
completely agree with that.
Yeah. The same guys asked another question, Phil Crabtree. The new signings, mate. How are they sort of embedded in the squad now? And is any of them that stands out? And what qualities do they bring?
Yeah, I think Tyson's been massive for us. Well, Jazz has as well. They both have. Tyson obviously off the back of an NRL Grand Final last year and a massive season with Brisbane, and Jazz, obviously played in the NRL a fair while now, and Samoan international, so he was playing some big games in the Pacific Championships as well. It's just the leadership qualities they bring. We're a pretty young team, and Tyson's same age as me at 26, but he's been to one of the top stages in rugby league, really. Jazz is a little bit older and played a fair bit of international, played World Cups. It's just the experience they bring, and calm amongst a bit of chaos at times, and a good voice, and they both lead by their actions. Both top quality players in their own roles, in their own rights, and I think Tyson's really sharp out of nine, really clever player, and you've got Jazz who's really slick on the ball, but tough, no nonsense, like middle forward. So when you've got players that are experienced and lead by their actions, it kind of drags the rest of the group along with them as well.
Yeah,
I've got to ask
pretty
this
much fair
question,
play.
Carl. I've got to ask this question
Yeah, go
because
on,
it'll
mate.
kill me if I don't ask it. It'll kill me.
Go on.
How's Jack getting on?
Jack Sinfield, yeah,
Yeah.
mate, really good, great lad. I actually
Addition?
car share with him, obviously with him being from Saddleworth.
Oh,
There's a
wow.
few of us that jump in together. He's been around rugby league a long time, and obviously with his dad, and
Yeah.
to be fair to him, he's making his own brand and his own personality, and yeah, he's a great kid. Like, he'll go really far in the game. I was talking to him the other day, and I still didn't realise that he were only 21. He's still,
Yeah.
it seems like he's been around forever. Really, the amount of games he's played for that age. In a high pressure Leeds team at the time. He's a really good kid, man, and they go really far. Really skillful, really professional. There's very few 21-year-olds that you meet now that are doing the things he's doing. So, although he's having to bide his time a little bit, I think once he gets in the team, he'll do a really good job for us.
That's the thing as well. Like, we were gutted when he left, but when he signed for Wakefield, I was saying, I went, that's a good buy. That I'm sure Darryl Powell will mature him into a great player, because you know what I mean. We, as a Rhinos fan, we know Darryl Powell very well. We know kind of how he does things. So I couldn't have wished anyone else for him to play with, to be fair. So yeah, I'm just buzzing that he's signed for you guys.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you look at some of the players we've picked up that are younger and how they've turned out under the staff, and it's a credit to the staff of what they see in players and what they're willing to give those players as well. And I think he's just another one of those. He comes a bit further along in his journey, having played a fair bit of Super League anyway, so that always helps. But I think, yeah, like you say, mate, he's under the right staff. He's been brought in for the right reasons. He's good with how he prepares. He's really professional. Again, been around rugby league a long time, knows how everything works. So he's just another one that's just kind of there waiting for his opportunity. And once he gets it, I'm sure he'll take it with both hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Dave Freeman, he asks, who are the club jokers and pranksters? And is there any stories that you can tell us that are PG?
You thought
PG.
it's rugby league.
Yeah, there's a fair few. So Jazz is a massive personality in terms of joking. He's always on people. He's pretty quick to humble people as well, which you can't go wrong with. But like he's one of them that can switch on when he needs to switch on, but another one he don't take himself too seriously. I'll throw Jack Sinfield into that mix as well. Actually, he had everyone on strings in Tenerife. I won't tell you exactly what he did, but yeah, it was unbelievable, and we only really found him out a few weeks ago. Not even a few weeks ago, actually, a few days ago of what he was getting up to. And they were going after a few of the younger boys, and it really got people rattled. It got Corey Hall in quite a bit of a pickle trying to work out who this person was that were getting him all the time. And then again, nobody thought it was him. Like I didn't suspect him. There were no suspicions around him whatsoever, just because he's that type of kid. He's not quiet, but he's not one of them that you'd think could do that kind of stuff. So so he's got a pretty good reputation for himself at the minute. There's always the classic stuff of like people's stuff getting hidden. That's a bit more of a younger boys kind of thing. The really younger lads, like car keys go missing, or your car goes missing and it ends up in a completely different spot to where you parked it in the morning. It's just daft stuff like that. Or you go to put your trainers on after field and all your laces are missing or they're tied together. It's just daft stuff like that. That can end up going too far sometimes. But the actual precedent of it's pretty funny. Well, I say pretty funny until it happens to you, but they tend to keep it to each other. That
I was going to say, has anybody done anything to you recently that you can sort of tell us we can all have a little bit of a laugh about? Are you the one that's sort of quiet and manages your own business and tries not to get involved?
Yeah,
too
no one really comes after me. I'm kind of in that spot between, like, obviously I'm a bit of a senior player now, so kind of if anyone comes after me, like, yeah, I kind of go back a bit harder as well, because I'm kind of that age now. You've got to have a set of balls about you if you're kind of a young kid trying to go after a bit more of a senior player. Because you're gonna get something back. I've been that kid in that 18-year-old in change rooms where you're under the hammer of the big names and the big personalities. So I think they kind of tend to keep it to themselves, but you can see that some of them are itching to just go that little bit further and get a bit of a bigger name and see what happens. But to be fair to them, we kind of poke the odd joke, but it's never been anything like too mad, because if you go after someone who's a bit more senior, then you're really opening a can of worms, and you probably don't know what you're going to get back.
Yeah, that's it. It's funny you should mention Corey Hall, actually, because I'm going to try and get in touch with Corey, because I wanted to try and get him on, because obviously he's ex-OKR, etc. And I've heard a few stories through some of the ex-Rovers players about Corey, so that'll be for another day, obviously. But yeah, we spoke about it last week with Connor, that it's not just necessarily what goes on the film; it's the camaraderie and the crack and the banter that you all have that sort of connects you all as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%, mate. And there's nothing better than that, than like a camp. Obviously, we went to Tenerife for the second year that I've been here anyway, and it's just a massive opportunity to get to know people, and you see how people live their lives, and when you're over there, although the focus is rugby, there's a lot of time where you're not doing that, and you spend a bit of time together away in kind of a new environment where you don't have any pressure or stresses of home, and And, even things like that you probably don't even think about for individuals, and you get away and you can spend some time with each other and really see how people act, away from rugby, away from the home environment, really. But yeah, the better your bonds are off the field, the better they are on the field. And where I'm at now with the club now, I think it's great the way the family feel is around the place, and that's driven from Matt all the way down. Being in environments at clubs where families end up kind of excluded, and you just there as a rugby player pretty much. And when your life affects your family life so big because of games, and you're having to miss family events, or you're having to miss big milestones in people's lives because you've got games, because you've got training and different things like that. It's when you need to pull everyone together as families and as players, because the only really people that understand what's going on in certain aspects is the same people you're in the boat with. So if you kind of push families to a side and just try to get the best out of your players, it never tends to work, because you can get as much out of you want as a player, but if you're not looking after them on the side and what they have going on in their own lives, then you're only going to ever get so far. And I think the credit to Matt and Paul is massive with how families are always involved. And even when it comes to game days, there's a family room set up, there's food where everyone brings the kids and families get together, and even they get to know each other, which I think is massive in itself. It just puts everyone in the same boat, and you kind of get an understanding of if someone's having a bit of a rough time, or if someone's doing well in their life, and they're having big life events going on, that everyone's pretty much in the same boat, and you always get a real family feel for it at Wakefield. And I'm certainly grateful for that, and I know my family are grateful for that, having experienced different ways at different clubs that probably hasn't turned out the way you'd expect.
Yeah, that's it. And it's friendships for life, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. You stay in touch with people that I still see people that I played academy with now that have gone on to do different things with their life, and you get the odd message and things like that. And if I were to see them in person, I'd probably have a good conversation with them, and they stay forever. And you don't have to talk to them regularly, you don't have to see them regular, but it's just that kind of respect you get after playing with each other for a fair bit of time.
Yeah, that's it for sure. Two more questions, mate, before we let you go. Trinity Steve on TikTok, he's asking obviously about your diabetic. We've already discussed that. This isn't
Sure, I think
one's
this is
not
the
a
best question of the entire interview. I think it's going to be the best one.
Yeah, well, there's a question and a bit of a statement as well in there. So Steve's daughter, whoever Steve is, she's asked, "What do you have on pancakes?" And on Sunday at the Huddersfield game, would you sign a cowboy hat? The most random question you'll ever get asked. But
What do
can
you
you
know?
put
What
some
I
light,
actually
shed
forgot.
some light on that, mate?
I've no idea where that comes from. But yeah, I've forgot Pancake Day this year, to be honest. Like I say, I've had a lot going on. We're getting the house sorted, and I just completely forgot about it yesterday. But if I was to, I'm either a Nutella man or the hazelnut spread, which is like the white the inside of a white bueno. That's my go-to if I was having pancakes. But I honestly couldn't tell you the last time I had pancakes, and I was pretty gutted. I missed it yesterday, so that might have to be after the game kind of thing. That as for the
Yeah.
cowboy hat, if I see it, make sure they shout me over, and I'll sign it
Make sure you see.
if that's what they want.
Yeah, well, we didn't have a clue what there was on about until the question came through, mate. So we're in the
Yeah, no, I'm not sure
in the
either.
dark
But
as much as you, pal.
I'll do what they're after.
Yeah, well, Steve's daughter's going to be happy if that's the case, mate. So fair play to you, mate. Last question from me, mate. We know you do a lot away from the game with Jim and all that type of stuff. What are your plans for rugby league when you hang up the boots?
Yeah, it's a tough question, mate. It's a tough question. At the minute, I'm massively into the forex trading kind of stuff. I'm kind of having a pretty good ride on that at the minute. So that's taking up a lot of my focus away from the game. Apart from that, though, not really too sure. I've got an electrician qualification, but I don't really enjoy doing that. That's there as a very, very last reserve, and I avoid it at all costs. If I ever have any family that say, "Can I do my job?" I just text them somebody else's number. So I'm just at the point where I really don't want to do that. I'd like to think I go into coaching, but you know, I've done a bit of one-to-one coaching and coached a few amateur teams, but again, not really too sure on that. I'm not sure if by the time I get to my end of my career, that I might have taken everything I can from rugby. As much as I love it, I'm not sure how far I'll go with it. So there's a few options in the background. Certainly going to stick to the forex and that kind of market thing that I'm on at the minute. Whether that lasts till I retire, we'll see. If it peaks before I retire again, we'll see. I'd say coaching's in the lineup just because of the experience I've had so far. But again, you know, it's probably something I'm going to start considering over the next couple of years a bit more. And at worst comes to worst, I've got something in the back pocket, even if I don't really enjoy it. But yeah, there's a few options that the way I'm going to go down.
Yeah, I think it's one of them for me. I ask that question all the time because we say every single, to every single guest, and the variation of stuff people do after they finish the game is quite remarkable, I suppose. Because in a way, us as fans, we don't we know everybody's working class people within rugby league, but we don't know what they're doing, what the plans are. So that's like a generic question that I ask everybody, and I appreciate you're only 26, so you've still got a fair amount of years to sort that side of it out, mate. So. But no, like I said, mate, we really appreciate your time and your honest opinion and the insight you have give us into into your game and obviously Wakefield as a club as well. So we appreciate that. I think that pretty much wraps us up, guys. Does it?
Yeah, so just a reminder, next week we're back with our weekly podcast. It's the Las Vegas special while Carl makes his little song and dance about going over. So yeah, really appreciate your time, Cam. It's been our pleasure. So yeah, we're back next week, and remember, the podcast is for the fans, by the fans.
Yeah, cheers, Cam. Thank you, Matt.
No worries, gents. Thanks for having me.